So I would like to say to the Persian people, Eid Shamo Mubarak.
I got one!
Yep. I got me a special bait.
Who are you?
Gus Pike's my name.
When I first heard that it was like the #1 show in Iran, I was like, really? Because I didn't, I mean, I knew it was all over the world, but I didn't know it had made its way into the Middle East, and I thought about it for a minute, and I thought, that's really, really neat. A show like that has a lot of drama, and it has a lot of, you know, family elements and a lot of emotional content. For them to like the show so much, we have to be connecting with them on a very personal level from the heart. And so it was touching to me that, you know, there are these people I've never met. You know, you hear about Iran on the news in the West, but people who think they know you're not getting like an accurate picture of the people who live there. So when I found out that it was the #1 show, I was surprised and I was very happy, and then I was touched, and then I wanted to learn a little bit about Persian culture, and so I've watched a couple of documentaries and did some reading on the internet, and now compared to my Western friends, I'm a bit of an expert.
Peas.
Oh, they're my favorite vegetable.
Beans.
Also my favorite, yeah.
And parsnips.
Did I tell you how much I like your hair up?
Well, I had been in theater school. I was classically trained for the theater, and when I got out of school, I was mainly focused on theater, thinking that I would probably be doing work in the theater. And then some auditions came up for some television stuff, and one of them was Road to Avonlea. And initially when my agent sent me out for a meeting with the casting person, she said they're trying to find someone and they've been having a bit of a difficult time, so don't worry about the age. And I said, why, how old is the guy? And they said, I think 14. And I said, you know, I look younger than 26, but I don't look 14. So she said, just go anyway. So anyway, I went, and then a few months later, they wanted to see me again. And then I think they just increased the age of the character a little bit. Mm-hmm. So then I auditioned, and yeah, when I auditioned, the person who was operating the camera, she started to cry, which was a good sign. Yeah, I got then they gave me the role, and yeah.
Sarah!
At least you need a proper tune to practice to. Well, let's see you dance.
Yeah, the other actors who played the other roles were all very nice. We got along very well. Jackie, who played Aunt Hetty, her as a person, she's very, very different from her character, which shows just how great of an actress she was. And yes, she passed away a couple of years ago, and that was a sad loss. And but she was a really sweet person, like her own nature. She was always kind of watching out to make sure nobody was treated badly, but very different from her, the character she played.
Excuse me. You have to forgive me. I can't see everyone. I'm so proud to be part of the King family. Finest people I know. Took me in like a son, helped me like one of their own. and I'll be grateful to the end of my days. Thank you all for coming.
The movie Sandstorm was a movie that I made to try to raise awareness about the persecution of Falun Gong practitioners. So I just wrote a script, something that I hoped would help people to understand, and the main focus for the audience, in my mind, was the police in China, because they are sort of on the front lines. They're the ones who are physically carrying out the brutal and barbaric tortures against innocent people, and they're very pressured, deeply brainwashed, and controlled in many ways through the ideology that, you know, started messing with their minds when they were kids in school, to the pressure they feel that if they don't do their jobs, they might even be persecuted. So I wanted to try and talk to them, and many times in life, it's difficult for people to see themselves clearly. And so, as Shakespeare said, holding a mirror up to nature. So I wanted to hold a mirror up to these policemen. So the main character in Sandstorm is a policeman. He's trapped in his home with his wife during a huge sandstorm. He can't go out. They are running out of food. She's running out of life-preserving medicine. Their daughter is missing in the sandstorm. And he finds himself more and more isolated. And when he's on his own, he starts remembering some of these people he persecuted. And so there are flashback scenes showing some of the things that he was ordering other policemen to do. And through that, I hoped that the policemen in China would look at it, and because they had a distance from it, because it's a movie, they would be able to think about it and see things about themselves more clearly. The way I learned about Falun Dafa, which is a practice I've been doing since 2001, is when I was living in Los Angeles in 1999. I had never heard of the practice. And then I used to read a couple of papers online. Then I read one day this article about a persecution of this group called Falun Gong. I'd never heard of them before. And at that time, we weren't hearing much ever about China. It was this country, the biggest population in the world, and actually before that, I had said to a friend once, we were somewhere and there was a map, and I said, "What's going on there?" I said, why do we never hear anything about China? They can't be doing nothing, of course. I said, it's weird we never hear anything. So when I saw something about China, I was like, okay, here's some information. And then I read about this persecution of this group, and the thing that was missing was like, why? What did this group do? What's wrong? And I noticed that the Chinese communist regime was just calling them a few names, like labels, very easy, but no reason, no rationale, no details, no justification. Like, what have they done wrong? Why are you persecuting? You know, there was just throwing names at them. So I knew something was not right. Something wasn't right about this. So I'd seen a few more articles, and then about a year and a half later, I moved to Toronto. And then I opened my door one day, and there was a flyer there, like a newsprint flyer. Very simple. And I saw the words truth, compassion, forbearance. And right away that struck me. It was like, I thought about it, and because those are very, very strong human principles, very sort of fundamental. And then I started reading, and it was like, oh, this is the group that's being persecuted in China, that they didn't give a reason why they were persecuted. The persecution of Falun Gong in China started in 1999, July 20th, 1999. The practice started to be spread in China in 1992. And it was spread for free. There was no membership, nothing to join. And that's one thing about the practice that actually attracted me as well, which is that there's nothing asked for from the practitioners at all, like absolutely nothing. Falun Gong was very pure. They just didn't ask for anything. And so in China, when people started to do the practice, they were starting to get a lot of these benefits, particularly improvement of the health through the exercises. And the results of these improvements in health were things that people could see readily. Like, you know, you saw someone who, you know, they're an old couple that barely went out because they were ill, and now you see them out walking around like young people, or someone with bad backs or diabetes or all kinds of diseases. So people started telling people in China, just by word of mouth, it spread. And then by late 98, 99, the Chinese regime saw that had grown hugely, the practice, so they did a survey. There's no membership list or anything, so you can't check that to see how many people are practicing, but they did their own survey, and it indicated to them that between 70 and 100 million Chinese were practicing Falun Gong. And that's bigger than the membership of the Communist Party. And among practitioners, of course, were people in the military, police officers, even Communist Party members who were supposed to officially be atheists doing this spiritual practice. And it went right through all levels of society, like from farmers to, you know, the top university had a lot of professors and students doing the practice, because even though they'd been indoctrinated with atheism as kids, when they read the teachings, they could see that there was something real and tangible and understandable rationally to allow a person to really comprehend what spirituality really is. And so a lot of people, intellectuals, started taking up the practice. Now, the main tool that the Chinese regime uses to stay in control is thought control and ideology. They're extremely violent, and they persecute people barbarically, and they have since they took over China in 1949. But still, the main tool, their main weapon, so to speak, is thought control and ideology. And what they use to control the people is violence, lying, deception, inciting fear, encouraging Chinese people to struggle against each other. And all of those things are the exact opposite of truth, compassion, forbearance. So even though truth, compassion, and forbearance are seen generally around the world as, of course, being great things, like what better principles to be followed in the public, the Chinese Communist regime doesn't look at it that way. They're looking at a fundamental change in mentality of the Chinese people, and they're changing in such a way that they thought that their tools of control and manipulation would no longer work as well with these principles of truth, compassion, tolerance, which forbearance. In Chinese, the words have deeper meanings. Like, it's forbearance. The third principle is forbearance. It includes tolerance. It includes patience. It includes endurance, and the compassion also includes kindness and benevolence and generally being good to people. And truth is, well, truth. These principles being spread throughout society, the Chinese regime actually looked at as a threat, as bizarre as that sounds. And particularly the dictator at that time, Jiang Zemin, he had a very personal animosity toward Falun Gong, and it's been said that he had a very strong jealousy toward Falun Gong and toward the teacher of Falun Gong. With communism, they have to force it on the people. You know, even if the people don't really want it, there's a fear factor. And so the Communist Party is aware that they have to force the people. And the dictator, of course, who worked very hard to be like the reigning, you know, the supreme leader, he knows really that he's not truly a beloved person. And then he sees this man who came from a simple life, who gave this practice to the people. It's spreading across China many times faster than communism did, with, you know, more members than the Communist Party, and that the people who do the practice have great affection and respect for the teacher because he's given all of this and has to this day asked for nothing. So it was said that he had a very, very strong jealousy, and it was his idea to incite this persecution, and he pushed it through even though other Communist Party members in the leadership circle didn't think it was necessary and didn't agree with it. Jiang Zemin, he pushed it through, and then July 20th, 1999, is like 70 to 100 million Chinese people, good people, you know, housewives, farmers, teachers, doctors, lawyers, policemen, military, persecuted. And so that was behind it. It's a perverse thing to persecute a group of people essentially because their good principles are seen as being a threat. I'm going to say it again. Eid Shemo Mubarak.